a beer fanatic then. Yeah.
We're like, we're this close to like wanting to get a pet, because we're like, when you got 2 parents and 1 kid, you're like,
oh my God.
You know who that kid talks to?
All the time.
Why, Mama? Why? What do you believe? What do you believe? What do you think? I'm like, I don't think anything right now.
I think I want to stop talking.
You always have a thought, Mom.
Great.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to use your headphones, because your sound quality is not great. So I don't know how that's going to record for you.
Let me try to use my headphones.
Yeah.
What I tell people to do.
Can I show you what you did right now? You did this.
Well, I was trying to see if it was the right cable.
Look. Oh my goodness. Okay, do a sound check.
Check.
Okay, better. So then you can have, yeah.
Hey, okay.
Turn up your volume a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I should have asked you this like last week.
No.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. I'm so proud of you. Like, this is the first time I've actually gotten ready in like 4 weeks.
Me too.
No, I saw all your stuff. You look so pretty, and you're so like, I mean.
Well, my thing is, I told my students that I was going to show up for them. So I decided that every episode, no matter what we do, I'm going to wear my scarf and I'm going to wear my heels. And it's not like I'm trying to be like Mr. Rogers, but you know that Mr. Rogers is like our #1 role model. So just a way to like physically separate myself from home responsibilities.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm trying, but
you have to do that intro then. You have to do that intro where instead of wearing a cardigan like Mr. Rogers, you're picking a scarf, but it's always the same scarf.
I should. I totally should.
Just like line up a whole bunch of them, and you just like look at them and you're like, which one? And act like you're going to get a different one, but just wear the same one every single time.
I totally should.
Love it. And then maybe one day you actually put on a different one and you're like, come on guys, this doesn't feel right. And you take it off and you put the yellow one.
Oh, I love that. Oh gosh, my hair is getting.
Hair will get into the mic.
So I have so many ideas for what I want to do with this channel, but I feel like there's no one watching, so I'm like, are you there? But you know what? Even if I'm doing this for just like my, handful of students in our department, like it's worth it. So
totally.
Yeah. So totally. I'll just keep showing up in my sweaters and my heels. I changed my shirt at the last minute because I'm just more comfortable in a sweater.
No, I love what you're doing because we will not return back to normalcy. And so the fact that we are using different platforms to continue connection and building our relationships, and like look at how innovative you're being and how you're going out of your comfort zone. And of course,
way out of my comfort zone.
And your comfort zone is like, you're going, this is love, and your students and families are totally receiving that. So an audience of 1 or 100, that feeling in here is just, that's why you're doing it. And I think this is going to be amazing. It is amazing. It's not going to be. It is. I've seen episodes.
You're already making me cry, but it's so hard though, because I reached out to my families and they don't want to do Google Classroom. They're like, our hands are full. Like my students are medically fragile. Like there's only so much that I can ask of my families, and with the support that they need, it would be my families doing all the assignments. So I kept asking them, I'm like, well, I need to check in on a daily basis. Like, what do you need from me? And for a while, like they're able to pick up their devices this Friday, but ever since then, like they had nothing but just a cell phone with slight, internet connection. So they're like, just send videos, check in with them. And so at least like the families are putting their phones, to their kids every day, and they're just like tuning in. So I just have like little shout outs. So today, can you give a shout out to a kid named Wesley?
Wesley!
So amazing.
Hi, Wesley. My name is Fong. So a couple things, Wesley. I love the name Wesley. And then your teacher, I don't know if you call her Miss Teresa, Miss Tay, Miss Chami, but I know her as Tay, and we go way back. I like to, I'm trying this new term, Wesley. You tell me if it works or not. I think we're BIFs, which means BFF, but I'm trying it out. It might not work. So you let me know. Wesley.
Wesley. So at our school, our principal and just like different people in the office, they would, a few times they've actually recorded over the loudspeaker a shout out to Wesley. And so every time he hears, like, you know, if a student's name is called out over the loudspeaker, like so-and-so, please report to the attendance office, Wesley would always say, not me, not me. And so now he has a very specific assignment. So thank you. And Wesley, we love you so much. Have you started recording?
Yeah, it says, hold on, let me see. It says, well, if it says stop recording, it is recording, right? Because the button.
We're good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the shout out to Wesley was included because he's amazing. Like, he lights up the world. So we are on an interview with my buff.
We're trying it out.
We get through this interview with my best friend in the entire world, my sister, my kindred spirit, just everything. This is Fong in all her glory. Fong. I call her Fizzle. I call her so many different names. But I wanted to be able to introduce, in a nutshell, your heart. So with Fong, I don't think that if there wasn't Fong with her big, beautiful heart and all the love and compassion that she has, I can honestly say that without you, Fong, there would be no Armin and Teresa, there would be no Porter or Cyrus. So I just want to take a minute to explain how important you are to our family. And I just want to explain how important you are to the family of Community for Exceptional Minds, because our focus in this channel is we are building a community because we are not going to let coronavirus, COVID-19 take that away from us.
Right.
We are reminding people that there is the power of connectedness, no matter what we're going through. So I think to have you just, you know, everything that you are to the world, like, you light up a room, like you are that diamond that, you know, people sometimes look into your life and they see your positivity, they see your joy, and they just kind of assume that, you know, you haven't really gone through seasons of trials and tribulation and of struggle, but you are that beacon of hope through everything, that all of it builds character. So the character that you have, I have learned so much from you. So knowing that there would be no Armin and Teresa without Fong, I just want to share a quick little story. I'm sure you remember this, but I was working at a grocery store at the time, and Armin brought Fong through my line, I think to approve of me.
just to see you.
And shortly after, Armin asked me out for a coffee date, and we've been inseparable since. So Fong, thank you for connecting my heart with the love of my life early on. And thank you for being a sister to both of us and our best friend. And just thank you for everything that you've taught me. You taught me the female power walk with heels. You've taught me to dress up on the day of a final and play my loud music that's going to inspire me, so that I just walk into any kind of test that I had in college or final. And I just, you know, I walk in with that mentality, like, I've got this. So I don't think I would have had straight A's in undergrad and grad school without everything I've learned from you. Fong and I have traveled to Egypt together, to Italy, where you got married, New York, Chicago, and everywhere in between. So you're my sojourner in life, but especially just what you've taught in my heart. I don't think that I really would have understood how to take care of myself before I could take care of others if you didn't give me that powerful example of how you balance everything in life. So I want to share a quick story about your son, and then I just want to pass it over to you. So I think I want everyone to understand that to have belief in others the way that Fong has belief in others, you have to back it up with intentional investment. So my best way of describing that is Fong is not only my best friend, she's not only just amazing in everything that she does, but she's an incredible mom. And when she was visiting, we went on a family walk together, and and her son, I'm trying to keep up with her son because he's so amazing. And so he's running along the sidewalk, and we're walking, right in on a busy street. And so I'm trying to run alongside your son, and eventually I get too tired, and you, Fong, said, oh no, he knows to stop, when each block, we have to cross the street. And so finally I just caught my breath, and I see your son is just like way far ahead, and he's about to, cross the street, and he stops and he runs back and he checks in with you and your husband. And I think as much as we want to give, freedom and flexibility to say, okay, you know what, I trust you. I can't imagine how long it took for you to run alongside of him and to teach him those safety rules so that you could communicate that you believe he's going to make good choices and that he's going to be a responsible citizen. And I pray that I can be that kind of mom. I pray that I can be that kind of friend and teacher. But it's one thing to have the strength of belief in others. But I think if you don't back it up with intentional, focused, just investment, I think that value kind of decreases. So I don't know how you do it, but I admire you for so many things. But, the community from a mom to a mom, just you do that so well. And I think what you communicate, your belief in others to the world, I really don't know of anyone else who does it as well as you do without getting exhausted. That's something that like energizes you, where sometimes for us, it's just exhausting. So thank you. That's Fong in a nutshell. I'm trying to organize my hands so that I can really present you. So thank you for being in our community today. Thank you for doing this for our students. So I don't really have any questions prepared. I just wanted to know, knowing that it's Autism Awareness Month, knowing that our focus is community and connectedness, I just kind of wanted to open it up just to see what you would like to share with our short amount of time today. I just pulled my headphones out. It really hurts.
Oh, Tay, it's so generous and abundant of you, and that's just so you. Everything about that was so rich, and that completely filled me up. I don't even know. I know. I even wore eyeliner today. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think when Teresa reached out and she was sharing this project, and she's like, we can talk about anything, and there's so many things we can talk about. Obviously, the first thing I wanted to talk about is just like how much I've missed you and want to hear about King Cyrus and your students. But one thing I thought, I was like, I can share a reflection on kind of my experience being quarantined, shelter in place. I think there's just so many emotions going around right now. People are hurt, people are scared, people are anxious, and sometimes all those feelings are coming all at once. And sometimes they're in different layers, and everybody has a right to that feeling. And on social media, and we're kind of inundated with all these feelings and emotion, and it's overwhelming. And I think the through line that I've seen is that everyone's doing the best that they can, and that they're moved by connection, and they've realized that we're in a time where technology is just going to continue to advance. And as an older generation, we've been very quick to criticize Generation Z. The young folks who are coming into the workforce right now, the high schoolers, like, they're always on their devices. They don't understand connection. But it's like, they do. They just understand it differently. And I really believe during this time in COVID-19, there's a silver lining, because it just leveled the playing field. And so our opportunity right now is to understand that we're all having these feelings, and the thing, you know, our innate need, our universal need is to connect, is really to connect, you know. So right now I've been really kind of grounding myself in that, and like homeschooling, you know, if you've seen a lot of really funny memes about homeschooling, it's tough, it's challenging, because the work that teachers do day in and day out is never ending, right? And so for a lot of us who are going like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, you know, that the teachers put in so much time and this is so hard, like to hold on to that, to really hold on to that, you know. And is that so for me, I'm not pushing those worksheets because I know I can't do it. I didn't get a degree in that. I didn't do any of those things. He has wonderful teachers who are now connected with him virtually. So what can I do as a parent? And I am using social emotional learning as my grounding platform.
Love
You
that.
know, people, you know, social emotional learning has been around for a while. You know, people have been throwing the term around. It started in the school day and it's now trickled in out of school time, which is after school. And people talk about like if young people don't have a strong base in social emotional learning, they can't excel in a lot of different things. But one thing that I found really challenging is people don't unpack that. What does that mean? It's just jargon, social emotional learning, SEL, right? And so then you break down the different components of like self-awareness. So I'll give the example of what you shared with my son is that as a young person, he has an opportunity to understand that I have a choice. I can make these choices, whether I'm 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 17. I can make these choices, and these choices will have an impact on who I am, right? So the community around you will cultivate and foster and lead you to making the best choices. So from there, you build a good, stronger self-identity of yourself. You have a stronger self-awareness of yourself. And then from there, you learn how to self-manage, right? When I'm upset, what do? I can have a tantrum. Those feelings are valid, but what do I do with that? Do I walk it off? Do I meditate? Do I voice my needs? What is it, right? What are your self-management mechanisms? So for me, being able to, you know, to unpack all those things with my only child has been mind-blowing, because how he shows up in the world in a classroom of 20 is very different than how he shows up as an only child in a community where all these loving, doting helicopter parents, right? So this is my opportunity to know that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a bookmark on those academic things because your teacher's got it down. You've been very blessed. You've had access to a very good school system where I believe in some senses you're fine. At the end of this, if you can still ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, you're good. If you know that yellow and blue makes green, you're awesome. But I want you to be able to name your feelings when you're at home with your mom and dad and you realize that we just said no to something, that that we don't always have to say yes. And how does that feel like when you're in a classroom of 20 when you don't get picked first? Or what happens when someone does something to you? Do you do it back to them? And what's the impact of that? So like really getting to work on those, like I think social emotional learning should be called human skills.
Yes.
It should not be called social emotional learning. It should be human skills, right? So if I can understand who I am and my identity, I develop my self-awareness, I understand what social management skills I need, then I'm going to be able to cultivate stronger relationship, and I'm going to have a stronger social awareness around the world. It's just like this complete circle, right? So like let's not call it SEL and just call it human skills. And as a parent, when I approach activities with him with SEL in mind, I have found that I've been more gracious on myself. Because as with all things, it's time to task and you have to build a muscle, right? To be a really strong graduate student, you have to like study, you have to read, you have to reread, you have to highlight. To be a really strong athlete, you have to run, you have to condition, you have to like isolate every single parts of your body. So how is that any different than building a young child and building their social emotional learning capacity? It's time to task. It's every single day. It's every single task. I asked you to put this away. Why? why did I ask you to poke? Because I said so? No, because there's time to be calm and there's time to be chaotic. And chaotic mess is great, but what happens if we have it all the time? So it's like slowing things down to telling the why versus like, I told you so, which is, you know, a bit of the narrative that I grew up in, but the way I grew up in was very different, right? My parents were living in different times, different conditions. Their capacity was different. And because they were able to build my capacity, I get to shift that narrative for our son now, so that when he has kids, his capacity is going to be much greater than what I have now. So that's kind of like the thing that I've been really kind of like, as I'm going around the house and like everything needs to be clean because I'm just that person, but that's my need. That's not anybody else's need. And so I have to understand, what are my self-management, as much as I can say SEL is great for young people. SEL is like the essence of what we need to continue to take on our continual roles as an educator, as an advocate, as a parent, as a community leader, as a family member, right? What are my self-management? What are my emotions? Like, how can I voice my needs versus wants? So it's like, it's kind of like looking in a mirror lately because he's so much like me that I'm like,
oh, thank God he is, because you're amazing. Oh, I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Okay, so I have so many questions, but I know that, you know, to really capture our attention span, this is, you know, we do, all of our episodes are kind of like, my students are gen ed first, and then toward the end of the episode are just some of the things that they really need in addition to Google Classroom. So with the short amount of time that we have, a lot of my students are nonverbal. So you know, throughout teaching, you know, this is no negative reflection on my students, but I believe in them. I push them because I know that the greatest periods of stubbornness often come before the greatest periods of growth. So, you know, I have had students who are the biters, the punchers, the, you know, spitters and all of that. And I always say, okay, they're communicating something, but how can I teach them how to communicate that in a better, more socially appropriate way? So I have, you know, I have taken on a lot, but sometimes I don't feel that as a teacher, I have the heart, but I don't always have the tools. So can you give us just, and I believe that, you know, as a special education teacher, I should be able to adapt anything, whether it's through sign language or repetition or anything. So can you give me just one example of social emotional questions?
Yeah. Oh man, I just like got so much out of what you just said there too. I'm like, wow, I was like, I write down on a Post-it. So I think there's so much of SEL is based in what's happening for you. So I always start with the questions of like, how does that make you feel? Or how would you change this? So I always start with the self. And then I would say, what did you notice about others? What did you see in their face? And then from there, it's like a slow unpacking. And then I'd be like, how was this like what happened yesterday during snack time? So then it's almost like they embody that experience, and they will get to the meta, because they'll be like, oh yeah, during snack time, I felt like this. I noticed this. And so then, you know, in their way, they understand it and they will build their own narrative, and it goes at their pace, right? And it might not just take one experience. It may take 5, it may take 10, like a muscle, right? You have to build that muscle. So I think if you scaffold those questions, and it always has to start with the self and reflection on others, and then making the connection to like other things that's been happening.
So I want to really unpack that, but what about, you know, if there's a teacher, or if there's a parent, or any way that, you know, we can try to connect them to social emotional learning resources? Are there any suggestions with how we can kind of pick up these tools whenever we need them? Can I give everyone your phone number? Is that okay?
So I think, so that's the thing. It's like social emotional learning. There's just so much resources online, right? But let's be real. It's like, it's time.
Right.
And it's time, right? We get inundated by information. And so I think one thing that's really support me in like understanding social emotional learning as a parent is I think about like the two things that most parents want kids to learn, and if they understand this for themselves, then they will be able to incorporate social emotional learning. It's that if you don't know how to swim, it's a scary thing, right?
Mm.
If you don't know how to swim, what are the steps that you have to do? First, you have to understand, what are my fears around swimming? I grew up in a household where we never swam. We didn't have the money to go swimming. We didn't have a bathing suit, right? Or I don't want to go swimming because I saw a man get bit by a shark. I almost drowned, right? So all these things, right? So this is my own fears. What have I noticed about other people swimming? That everyone has fun. They don't really care what they look like, or they do care what they look like. They do their own thing, right? So then it's like, what are the different steps that I need to do to get myself into the water? And what are the questions I need to ask myself? Same thing with reading, right? It's like, if I'm not a very strong reader, how does that make me feel? I never want to volunteer. I don't like reading, so all those things, it's like, if we can internalize that as a parent, then we can look at every opportunity when we're interacting with our young one and be like, what are they feeling right now? What's the narrative in their head right now? What is their perspective is that's creating resistance? Where can I ask questions of curiosity so they can move away from that resistance? Not immediately, 1 or 2 questions that could happen, but how do I create a space for that? And then how can I ask them, what are some strategies we can build together for you to just try? Right? So then it's like the 3 parts. It's like self-awareness, like, self-management, and then relationships, social awareness. If you break it into those 3 things, it's just like the progression of creating a relationship. It simplifies things. Activities, you can just, on Pinterest, you can get a whole bunch of great things. You can go on social emotional activities, and they really find some really great things, even from like cleaning your playroom, or like washing dishes, or even getting wipes and wiping down all the doorknobs, right? It's like, you get to ask, like, how did it feel for you to like clean this doorknob? I didn't like it. I'm touching chemical things. Okay. Yeah. When did you notice somebody else cleaning it? Oh, you and dad clean it all the time. Yeah. Do you think we like touching chemical things? I don't know. Do you? I'm like, why do we have to do it? So it's like, again, it's like a scaffolded 3 steps. That to me, that's the simplest way.
Right.
But
Okay.
there's information, like I have to say, like, there's just a wealth of resources. People are so generous with things, and I actually find those things really overwhelming, because then you feel like you have to do those perfect activities. I gotta like do it correctly on Pinterest, or I have to do it, but it's more so the process, not the product.
Okay, so I think you hit up on a really important key point, as well as everything else, but you are focusing on the intuition that you can share with people, because I think, especially right now, whether you're a parent, a student, a coworker, or someone working from home, a dog mama, I think that there's just almost information overload, that if we can just focus on the intuition, like the why, the process, just allowing whoever you're working with social emotional learning to understand that whatever their action is, it has a reaction, that you are a critical part of our society.
Yeah.
So whatever you do has a ripple effect. That's kind of the intuition that I'm starting to understand. And you're empowering people by that. You're empowering people that no matter how positive or negative the way you're acting is right now, you have an impact, because that's how we as society work. So I think tying it back to, connectedness and community, I just think it's perfect that we really focus this episode, all about social emotional learning, because I know, for me as a special education teacher, we do task analysis, so we have to break everything down, like even for the most simple thing that I want to educate my students on, like what are all the steps that they need to really accomplish before they can, even try to access this kind of learning. So for me as a teacher, you have really, really opened up so many different ways that I can really work better with my students. But I think for me as a mom, Cyrus has started his, head banging, and, and it's just so hard. And so, I'm always asking myself, like, okay, like, am I giving him something when he's fussing? Am I giving him something? Like, what attention am I giving him? And, how can I try to like not give him the attention that he wants when he's not providing the behavior that I think he deserves, especially when he's hurting himself. So I am definitely going to have a lot of questions for you, but I'm going to try to post some brief resources. I don't want to overwhelm anyone with the abundance of resources that are out there, but the intuition behind social emotional learning. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow. Like I have a lot that I think is a lot more clear after this conversation. So one more follow-up question is, again, knowing that this month is Autism Awareness Month, do you have a specific positive message that you want to share to either families of individuals with autism or individuals with autism, just anything that is on your heart to share?
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, someone told me this a long time ago, and I have to constantly remind myself and love to share the message, is that each parent or each guardian, we know our child best, you know, regardless of like the stress, or sometimes we feel like we haven't done a really good job. We know our child, our student best. And there are experts out there that have a lot of degrees that can tell us a lot of different things. But if it doesn't resonate and doesn't feel good for our young person, like we don't have to totally adopt it. And then that every single child is beautifully created in their own way. And as if we look at our body, each of our body is created differently. In order to train for any big thing, we all have to train a little bit differently. And so that's how we're beautifully crafted. And that's how every single child is crafted. And that when we approach parenting and teaching, is that's what the beauty of it. It's like every single child is beautifully crafted, and we just have to find the right technique that works for them. And if it's not the technique that's being posted or pinned or Instagrammed, it's totally fine, because I feel like each person knows best.
I love that. I think that that's really the powerful, empowering message that I think a lot of us just really need to hear. So thank you so much for your heart. Thank you for everything that you've shared regarding social emotional learning. And just thank you for your powerful belief in me, how you've developed me as just a better friend, a better wife, coworker, just you're developing me as a better mom. Just thank you. And I love you so much. Love you. So thank you for building our community around our kiddos and everyone else joining. Yay. So I love you, and I'll check in with you soon.
Okay, toodaloos.
Toodaloos. Bye, Wesley.
Okay. Bye, Wesley.
Wesley.
Okay, let me stop recording.